So it's now time for our first presentation of this afternoon. We've touched on this theme of resilience in these very strange and stressful times. It's very appropriate that the title of this presentation is Be Future Ready, Success Stories of Resilient Supply Chains. We have two presenters for this. We have Lawrence Ng, who's the General Manager, Asia at Boomi, which is a Dell Technologies business. And we have CS Lim, who's the Managing Director, Asia Pacific at LanciaConsult. So Lawrence and CS, please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you. Just let me set up the presentation. Okay, I trust everyone can see my screen now. Am I coming across clear, loud and clear? Okay, great. So thank you everyone, and it's indeed my honor, and CS, you too, right, to be the first to kick off this conference. And our topic today is Be Ready, Be Future Ready, future success stories of resilient supply chain. So quick introduction, myself as introduced, I run Asia for Boomi, we are a Dell Technologies company. With me today, I have CS Lim as our partner of Boomi, and he's the MD for APAC for LanciaConsult. So CS, would you like to say something?
Yeah, thank you very much, Lawrence. Everyone, good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here. So LanciaConsult, we are a Singapore-founded business, a very proud Singapore brand. We founded about 8 years ago from Singapore, and now we have offices in Europe, Hong Kong, and we're looking at further expansion. One of the things that we do a lot, and we've been working since we first started, was to work with logistics companies through your digital transformation projects. And what it means is looking at the existing technologies, help them select technologies that powers their business. And one of the key things that we do focus on a lot is about data, how we use data to continue to power your supply chain moving forward. So yeah, very happy to be here and share a bit more together with Lawrence. Yeah.
Thanks, CS. So let me move on to today's agenda. We kept the agenda light and simple. There's three things mainly. Firstly, I'll give an introduction to Boomi for those who do not know us and what we do in B2B EDI management. Then we'll move on to supply chain challenges that's been going on. Facilitate a discussion with CS. And then this will be followed by we'll share some success stories and question answer. So let's move on to Boomi. What do we do in supply chain? So Dell Boomi is a business unit of Dell. Acquired in 2010. We provide a cloud-based multi-tenant platform which provides integration, business-to-business EDI, API management, flow and master data hub. Just to let you know, I'm very proud to say that Dell Boomi Atmosphere platform is the industry's first complete, fully on-demand integration service. So in the area of EDI, we help you to transform the way you do your business with your trading partner with Boomi's B2B EDI management. The 5 things that we do, we support key EDI standards. There's built-in support for a wide variety of traditional and modern EDI standards, such as XML, XML, Edifact, HC7, etc., as well as the ability to define custom standards. Industry standards connectivity, we support a full range of trading partner communications, AS2, FTP, secure FTP, web services, etc. We also help with the management of your trading partner framework. We can set up and manage all your trading partner components from one console to quickly find, configure, and deploy changes for your partner communications. And that will result in a unified view of your partner transactions. You can easily generate detailed reports for any of your EDI transactions through simply tracking, error resolution, and reconciliation. Last but not least, with this single view, you can rapidly onboard your partners into your network via our Boomi platform. and this virtually eliminates data errors and reduce onboarding time, from weeks to hours. Okay, let me move on to the next slide. Supply chain challenges that we are seeing today. In the last few months, we are all aware. I think I don't have to say more. We are really been exposed to disruption that is unprecedented in scale and speed, right? And business challenges have been, exposed for many organizations, specifically in gaps in the supply chain that could impact your customer experience. So these gaps just highlighted how critical the supply chain is, especially when competition is increasing and there's pressure to improve financial performance. So we need to re-examine the complexity. As the complexity in supply chain management increases, we as business leaders, we need to take the bold and action to re-examine supply chain management to build that resilience, that drive, agility, and so that we can accelerate into the future. So it's just a quote from Gartner in their recent report. Supply chain agility is emerging as a complex, multifaceted capability that requires balancing a number of characteristics that are almost equally important: responsiveness, adaptability, coordination, speed, flexibility, and balance. Now, based on those themes, we like to learn from success stories. And we will share together with Lancia some of the success stories that we have done and that we work together. So now let's have a chat, CS. The saying out there is that it's crazy, right? It's crazy out there, has never been truer, right? So how would you describe the recent events that has disrupted supply chain? CS?
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. That's very true, right? And I guess it's not just the last couple of months. If anything, the last couple of months has just amplified the general sense, especially in the supply chain and logistics market, right? So you guys might have heard around the term called VUCA, VUCA, and basically it's volatile, right? A lot of things are changing. You got rates, your market, political situation, it's always changing, right? And we're always fighting and keeping up, right? Uncertainty, right? Things are, you can't make your decisions fast enough, and because there's a lot of things that are uncertain. Sometimes you look at your numbers, your P&L, your transactions, right? You always worry whether that's the right number that you're looking at. Complex, right? Complexity that you deal with as large business of SMEs, right? Multi-system, multi-countries, your workforce are distributed, they work in different languages. So, and lastly, ambiguous, so you're just unclear on what was the problem we're trying to solve. And I've seen a lot of our partners and our clients and a lot of logistics players are trying to tackle with this, right? And all this adds up with technology actually powering either existing companies or new challenges, that new entrants to the market that actually uses technology either to stay ahead or actually disrupt the market. So you guys, all of us are from working a lot in the logistics and supply chain industry. You do see a lot of disruption, be it your customer asking more or just generally you're just trying to keep up with your competition. So I've listed down here a couple of trends that you see. Shipping line and freight, for example, are starting to converge. MERS and IBR are working on this blockchain and trade lands project, which is quite disruptive, right? And there's also at the back of it is a technology project, right? We know that DHR has their own startup hub. Kuehne+Nagel and Temasek put together Reintroduce as an investment fund, just simply to invest on technology that's gonna stay ahead and also keep up with the competition. So I think it is quite challenging. The margins that we have in logistics is typically quite low, right? And sometimes we break even. It's already quite a lucky thing, especially during this period. But we do see as much as this economic or market situation being very complex and very hard to deal with, technology, either use it to solve this problem and stay ahead, or your competition is going to use those to kind of cut you and eat into you, or customers are basically asking more. So yeah, that's a general observation from last few years, especially amplified through last couple of months of the pandemic situation. Yeah.
Great points. I think VUCA is really a very good acronym to describe the disruption. But as a follow-up, CS, how should companies deal with VUCA?
Of course, there are a couple of things, right? And we've been work with clients and work with partners and companies. We always look at three things, right? One is people, right? Whether you have the skill sets, the right culture, the innovation and digital culture within the company. Processes, are you still using processes that 10, 20 years old, or you're just now changing the way you work and cut out areas that are redundant? But most importantly, technology is all about doing more with less, and we've heard about this so much already, but what does it really mean? And I'm sure all of us on this call here are already aware that tech is the way to solve the problem, right? And I mean, some of these percentages here, right? Most C-levels, and we know that we need to use tech to move forward, but what to focus on, how do we deploy it, how do we pilot small and scale big, staying agile to move, because it's okay to fail, right? Companies that are successful don't get successful as one shot, right? Because they try, they fail, they pick themselves up and try again. So the agile mentality is quite important. So Gartner do have, I mean, there's a lot of technology out there, but maybe let's focus on some of the sample technology that Gartner has. So if you go to, let me see my next slide here quickly. Lawrence, can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So we do see some technology trends in the market, and I use the Gartner ones as the one to reference to, right? And I'm going to talk about a few of these here. So cloud technology has been around for a long time, right? Boomi is a full cloud application that was architected based on cloud, and hence it's going to be something that we're going to lean on a lot more moving forward. But a few things, like for example, digital twin. What is digital twin, right? It's basically replicating you as an operator, or you as a managerial person, or physical device that you have into the virtual world, so that it works twice as fast. It doesn't rely on physical constraint and time and people, right? So how can we push more and more the digital twin capability into the virtual world, right? IoT is something been around for a long time. We talk about Industry 4.0. I'm probably the 50th person who have mentioned this on the call now, right? But IoT, on the back of it, is all connecting your existing infrastructure, leveraging what you have already invested on and bring new devices and new data, try to connect them so that you make sense of the data and the environment you're dealing with faster and more accurate. Else previously you have to call different people and bring people in on the meeting to make a decision, right? I'll pick on RPA a bit. RPA is also not new, right? It's been around for 4 or 5 years, but I guess what we see in the last 2-3 years, people start to pick up and understand a bit more how to use it, and a bit more realistic on what robotic process automation can actually help you. And they have the assisted version and the non-assisted version, right? And we see more and more businesses today have a PC and operators working on it, and on the right side they have an RPA that runs probably 50 or 20 to 50 processes that runs on its own and schedule and pick up and process files, for example. And it's not a solution that we use to connect data, but it's more like an extension of the supply chain operators, right? So, and back to your question, Lawrence, to deal with it, people is one process. We don't want to automate the wrong process, but just the amount of technology that's out there, we have to be careful in what we select and how we deploy them, right? And at the back of it, I mean, we can talk about all the funky technology trends, right? One of the things that we kind of always need to keep that in mind is how do we connect the data between all these platforms, right? People say data is the new goal, but I feel that it's even more important to make sure that it's connected. Yeah.
Right. So great points. I think data is indigo, and some even say it is the new currency. Great point so far. I think we have gained greater clarity of the disruption, its impact, and CS and I, we discussed and we spoke about how business leaders should rethink and redesign, and we got to the part to the data. So perhaps to put some flesh to the bone at this stage, why don't we start to illustrate, some of the concepts that we spoke about, how customers could use technology to do more with less. So why don't, what should the customers be and how do you respond? Why don't we start with some case studies?
Sure. Yeah, I think stories are always better, right? Because ours is all theory and technology and names and all that, right? So yeah, I'd love to share. We have two stories here that we quickly want to share. One is a Singapore-based logistic firm, right? I founded here about 20, 25 years ago. And it's always been a family-run business, and they're trying to expand out into the larger APAC market, right? It's one of the Singapore brands that we're happy to work with. As they looked at how they want to step forward with digital transformation, the one thing that they were trying to solve was how can they innovate and keep up with the customer demand, customer expectation a lot faster, and how can they position themselves to be able to respond to new market needs, like for example, e-commerce boom in China, for example, how can they enter it? And we know that be in China or in Malaysia or Singapore or Vietnam, those platforms can be different, and you have to be really fast to respond to those new environments and requirements. So we looked at data from to making sure that data actually flows as a single consistency across platforms. Data quality is also something that we looked at quite heavily with them to make sure that you get the right data quality and don't duplicate data across multiple platforms. So once you duplicate it, you worry about synchronization and accuracy, that kind of thing, right? So we did the assessments with them and look at the different types of integration platforms that are available in the market, and actually we selected Boomi to be their backbone in terms of their data integration. So they don't host anything on site, everything's on the cloud, but it connects to their Oracle NetSuite, which is their ERP platform, their TMS, their WMS, and eventually their fleet platform as well, to make sure that everything kind of connects to each other. One of the things that we also wanted to make sure that is always in the top of our mind is, it's easier to look at, it's very cheap to buy now, there's not a big capex cost that we're talking about, but as we scale and as we add more connectors, we want to scale with predictability, like from a cost perspective. If you add 20 connections, what does that look like, and how does that impact your P&L? And as you look at and adding this to your business, right? So that was one of the case studies that I thought was useful to share.
Thanks for sharing this case study. It is important to have solutions that can let you scale at speed, because right now, given the unprecedented disruption that's going on, unprecedented in terms of speed and scale. But however, in my conversations with many of my customers, right, they are perplexed by a problem. Yeah. Because recently, there's been an increase in the number of solutions and applications providing industry best practice out there in the market. And customers have told me that, with such a wide variety of choice and availability of choice, right, they sometimes are unable to make sense of what kind of technology solutions should they go into. So in this aspect, what are your thoughts around how we can help them to make sense of the choices out there?
Yeah, why not we use the second case study as the anchor?
Okay, sure.
So one of the reasons we started Lancia was that we left the big consulting world to try to help clients on the client side out there to make decisions together with you guys, right? And when we started this project with this M&A project that went out to buy 6 companies and try to consolidate them, one of the CFO pulled me aside and said, look, a good technology architecture, a good technology platform that runs is something that nobody notices. Right? It needs to run seamlessly. It needs to be unnoticeable. It needs to be a problem solver and not a problem that we talk about every management meeting or so. So when we went in and we started looking at the post-merger of this logistics company coming together, one of the key things that we looked at was to simplify the overall architecture as much as we can. Right? If you're going to put something in, we always ask how are we going to take something out so that it reduces the overheads in terms of maintaining and running it, right? So you don't end up with an environment of 20 or 50 applications running. How can you simplify it as much as possible? So yes, when choosing an application, you want to look at scalability, resilience, but I think one of the things that sometimes people tend to forget, especially when you need to justify your own business case, is how are you going to remove the cost? How are you going to make it simpler? How is it going to be resilient and something that just runs behind and supports your data and has a template to solve the problems that you need, right? So in this case, we basically help run the CIO capacity, and we've deployed Boomi in as the core backbone that runs all the data integrations, right? Have a template that we can go to market with their customers and say, customers come and integrate with me, and these are the 5 templates. We're ready to rock. When can we start, right? Today, they run about 50 to 60 data integration, right, across customers, ports, authorities across the world. And to be honest, we hardly talk about any integration failure or data drop, that kind of stuff. It's a bit more, when can we go live? When can we connect? And it's something that people take for granted. Needs to be a case where people take for granted. It's going to run seamlessly in the back end, and also reduces the amount of tools that you have in the organization. Yeah. So, the other thing that I just want to lean on before I hand over to Lawrence is one of the things that we need to continue, and one of the trends that's in the supply chain logistics industry is about keeping to open standards and not duplicating your data across platforms. As much as possible, we try to lean on the sharing economy where we share data across group, and if you have it, I'll just call it as a microservices and pull the data as we need, rather than storing them. So this were, I thought that from yes, there's a lot to select from, but I think one of the key things is how do we architect it in a way that we simplify further and make it a lot more resilient as we move forward. Yeah.
Right. Great. I think we just come to the 20-minute mark that we have set ourselves in order to keep the event going. Now we've come to the end of our chat. Right now we would like to welcome any questions and answers for either CS or me. We'll definitely try our best to answer your questions if there's any.
We could go through some of the questions that were asked on the.
Okay. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Cool. Well, the obvious question that everyone's going to ask: where do we start on this digitalization journey? That's something that everyone wants to know. Who wants to take that question? CS or Lawrence?
Well, I can start. I think for this digitalization, digitalization is not new. It's been around for a while. For my perspective, to start, you need to understand your IT landscape, where they are. I think you should start with your business objectives, projecting forward the next 3 to 5 years, what your customers are expecting, understand the trend, look out, then look in, look at what's your IT landscape and whether what the legacy systems you have and what are the new systems that you want, the new industry best practice that you want to adopt. With that, formulate a strategy, get the budget improved, and engage a trusted advisor. and go for a system that can best serve your customers. CS?
Thanks for that. I agree with you, definitely. We look at transformation, be it digital or enterprise or company or organization, it's actually the same topic, right? It's from A to B, right? But as we look at any transformation project, just selecting a technology, like Lawrence is saying, right, it's not enough, right? Technology is probably 70–80% the same across. That's why there's a market there. People come in and be competitors, right? But you need to take a look at people, because people who have been doing the same job and skills for the last 20 years, you ask them to change their job. Either they're not happy or they can't keep up. And these are things that you don't want, right? And lastly is the process, the design of your process, right? I saw a question around design thinking. So maybe I'll lean that in as an answer as well. Design thinking is a technique that we sometimes use, and especially where you can't really know where you want to get to from as an outcome. Like you pull people in and then you do a design thinking workshop, and they use things like, what do we stop doing, start doing, continue doing, stop doing. That's a rose-bud-thorn approach. You look at things where, from a user empathy perspective, not just you draw up the chart and say, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, but as a person, what is the empathy of a user and also your customer as they engage with you, right? So these are other things that you need to consider beyond just selecting a technology architecture to execute. Yeah, so that's the other factors to consider. Like sometimes those come before select the technology.
So here's a follow-up on that design thinking exercise. And of course, it depends very much on the size of the organization as well. But how long does the process take typically for someone who would apply something that you guys do? How long should that whole design, validation, approval process take? How long does it typically take for an organization?
It depends on, and I would recommend to start small, right? And a lot of times the 20% of the process, right, are the one that matters to your P&L and 80% will impact your organization.
So Pareto's law principle, yeah?
Yeah. So focus on like maybe customer onboarding, engagement, billing process. These are things that you probably want to focus on. And design thinking sessions are not long, right? It's 2 hours. Sit down, let's cover this specific billing agenda, for example. And back to the agile point, right? We do it, we improve it, we deploy it, we come back, we learn from it, we go again, right? And so it's not like, oh, we're gonna take 3 months to start doing design thinking. That's train has gone off already. So
do that whole Edward Deming PDCA cycle, yeah, plan, do, check, analyze sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Hey, we've got a question here from Dubai. Yeah? We've got even people dialing in from Uganda. That's fantastic. Yeah. But the question is with regards to the Internet of Things. We've now got long range in use, which is helping SCP, SCM. How do you see this trend of using these technologies, and how will they have an impact in the headcount of an SCM operation? I think that's one question that a lot of people always have. Once you digitalize, once you automate, are people going to be out of a job?
I can take that question.
Yeah, okay, you go. Yeah.
Well, if you look back, right, technology innovations from 3.0 to 4.0, iPhones and all that, right? There are more jobs created than jobs being retired, right? Yeah, we have less and less farmers and stuff like that because a lot more automation, but there are a lot more. In fact, IT and technology as a what do you call it, skill set, as a job has grown a lot more, and you see a lot more people working in the technology space. So I personally see that technology actually creates job, but yes, we do have to take care of the people that are in our payroll, in our team. How can they pick up new skills and adopt new skills and use the technology and move forward?
So it's more about reskilling and redeployment, yeah, rather than people being made redundant. Would you agree?
Yes, yeah, exactly the point. Yeah.
And Lawrence, you got cut off earlier. What would you say?
Oh, certainly. I just spoke to a customer recently, in fact, this morning, and there was pushback from the developers who are used to doing coding. So we told them that, Boomi, it's a low code, easy to use, fast to market. What you want is speed and able to serve your customers. IoT is the same thing. With IoT, you can collect data, machine to machine. You don't need a human in between. So therefore, what we need to focus on is really innovation. So by freeing your developers to do manual coding work, which now can be automated with features, it captured the artificial intelligence and everything captured in the system. We should level ourselves out of that box of just doing manual coding and think of innovation. How do I then have new processes, or how do I shorten processes? How do I then do design thinking concepts to serve my customers better? And in designing systems, I would also like to encourage people to break away from the current process, adapt the soft. Do not try to. I always discourage customers to not to adapt the software to a process, but adapt your process to the software, because the software has captured.
You sound like a salesman for SAP.
No, it's in general, right? You adopt the software. Because software has captured a lot of, Boomi is a software, we captured a lot of industry best practices in our community. So do adopt it in order to gain efficiencies.
Okay, well, here's another question for either one of you gentlemen, yeah? COVID-19 is causing a great deal of disruption in supply chains. You started out by saying that, so that's not news, yeah? As well as the need for very rapid adjustments being made. For example, in healthcare logistics. Can you give us a couple of examples from the Dell Boomi perspective, customers of yours that have been better able to respond to COVID-19 due to their proactive digitalization efforts that they took before the pandemic hit?
Yes, I have one customer. I just spoke to them a couple of days ago. We try to continue with our life as per normal. So this customer actually used our technology to onboard new employees. And I was talking to this new employee who was onboarded from home, right? This person started work at a new company. He's never stepped one day into a new company, but the processes were seamless, right? He was able to onboard, choose his computer, get his badge delivered, and all this built on technology. So the disruption is there, but they have minimized it, and they're able to ensure positive employee experiences. Same for supply chain. If they could continue to onboard suppliers, even though there's disruption in the market, disruption in the business, but what they did was to get ready for the next wave that was coming after lockdown has been lifted. In the meantime, they get ready to onboard their new partners using the tech.
Thanks. Going off on a bit of a tangent, yeah, and this is not so much related to what you do, Dell Boomi, or how you consult CS, but this is more of an opinion, okay? So are Asian customers getting ready for sustainability topics? Everyone's had to react because of COVID-19, everything's in a turmoil. So do you see that due to the pandemic, people are willing to sacrifice the topic of sustainability? Because that was very popular in 2019, or even before that. Everyone was talking about sustainability development goals, less plastic, no straws, what have you. So are people now sacrificing that sustainability angle? Do you see your clients doing that? Because they're now fighting for survival. What do you see, gentlemen?
So I can start first. I believe we have this is my opinion. I believe we have enjoyed a brief spell of clean environment, right?
What environment, sorry?
A cleaner environment.
Okay.
Right. So for example, Venice water, the water in the Venice canals turned from, I don't know, whatever color to blue. Even as near as Malacca, the river was blue. We have deers walking around. We have, animals walking around. We see things that we don't see, like the grass is overgrown. Wow, they're pretty flowers. So I think people do realize, I do believe that the trend towards sustainability will be there, if not more. And Dell definitely, and Boomi, we are committed to that cause. I think we all have enjoyed it, and I believe there was even letters written to the forum to say that, hey, maybe we should leave the nature alone. People are having experienced that clean environment, even for a brief spell. I believe we all see the advantage. I believe it will continue.
Okay, I hope so for everyone's sake. Thanks a lot, Lawrence. And I agree with you.
Sorry.
Sorry, gentlemen. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
We've got 3 more minutes, so that gives each of you 1.5 minutes to share your closing thoughts. I'll start with you, CS.
Sure.
But great panel and great questions coming in. CS, over to you.
No, thanks for that. My thoughts around supply chain is a very close topic to us. Technology as well. Just a couple of things. One is pilot small, scale as you grow, right? Don't chew on something too big, and also embed that digital innovation culture in the company, because sometimes people feel hard to start, but you have to encourage that test and fail and pick yourself up and encourage people try. And that's probably more core than selecting a technology that's the fanciest and the greatest in the world, right? And of course, then when you go to that, then it's an easier choice, right? Yeah. So so that's my thoughts. Lawrence?
So
yeah, for me,
thanks a lot, CS. Over to you, Lawrence.
So for me, data is gold. So you have a lot of data in your company, you don't know just where it is sometimes. And data shows that 52% of companies do not know where the data is. So therefore, I'll encourage you to do the following, right? First, you must be able to find your data, prepare your data, catalog your data so that you can empower your people to make decisions. So long as you go on a very data-driven approach, you will be able to make the right decisions for your customers, for your companies, and for yourself, including the environment. So data is go, find it and use it.
Thanks, Lawrence. So CS, do it in bite sizes. Lawrence, data is gold. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You brought us back to exactly where we need to be. It's 1:45. Great panel, great questions. Keep those questions coming. I really appreciate them.